guys, welcome back to Your Mindset, Your Power. Today we're talking about something we all have, but we often misunderstand: our personality. Yes, my friend, you have probably said or heard people say, "I'm such an introvert," or "I'm totally an extrovert." But what if none of those labels were right or wrong? What if there's no better side of the spectrum? Just different rhythms, different ways of being fully human. Whether you thrive in the spotlight or find peace in solitude, whether you think deeply before speaking or express yourself freely, there is a strength in exactly how you are wired. Yes, for me, I wasn't always the way people see me now. My son jokes and tells me I have a magnet for people, that I can make friends anywhere. And honestly, he's right. I love connection. I love having good conversations and socialize. But I wasn't always like that. No. When I was younger, mostly through high school, I was more reserved. Outgoing? Yes, but only with people I knew and trusted. Maybe a few friends, family, my small circle, that's where I felt safe. And over the years, through experiences, growth, and honestly, a little bit of mindset work as well, I opened it up more. I should say a lot more. I think that energy, that spontaneous side of me was always there. I just hadn't let it come out yet. But you know what? Lately, I've realized I also need and enjoy my quiet time. Yes, especially after a busy day filled with people and conversations. Simply having a quiet evening, just chilling, that's where I recharge, reflect, and get grounded again. And that balance, that awareness, has changed everything for me, because it's not about being one thing or the other. It's about knowing yourself enough to give your energy what it needs. So when I recently learned about ambivert, that space in between introvert and extrovert, I thought, that sounds a little bit like me now. And that's what today's episode is really about. Not about labels, not categories, but about understanding the truth behind our personalities, and how embracing who you already are might just be the most powerful act of self-freedom you will ever experience, my friend. So you might be wondering right now, okay, so what exactly is an ambivert, right? Well, let me explain. An ambivert is someone who sits right in the middle of the personality spectrum. Not fully introverted, not fully extroverted, but someone who can shift between both depending on the moment, the environment, or even the day. It is that person who loves people, but also loves and deeply needs their alone time. The one who can be social and spontaneous, and then suddenly quiet and reflective the next day. Sounds familiar? Well, that's because most of us are there, somewhere in the middle. In fact, studies show that the majority of people fall somewhere in between. You are not fixed at one side. We just didn't always have the words to describe it. And when I learned that, I smiled, because it explained so much. It made sense why I could love people and still crave quiet nights at home. Being an ambivert doesn't mean you're confused. No, it means you're adaptable. You can adjust your energy to what the moment calls for. You can connect deeply and recharge fully. You just do it on your own terms. And let me tell you something funny. I love funny stories because this still makes my husband laugh to this day. For years, he used to say, "Mi amor, my love, remember, first process it in your brain and then say it out loud, not the other way around." And he wasn't wrong. I've always been that spontaneous person who speaks from the heart, sometimes before the brain finishes loading, talking and then thinking. We still joke about it because it's true. I've said some things that made us both go like, oops, did I really just say that? And that's part of me. That genuine, expressive energy that used to feel too much or maybe a little embarrassed sometimes. And now I've learned to embrace it. And listen, as I've got older, I've become more mindful before I speak. Or at least I'm trying. But listen, without losing that authenticity. Because the goal here isn't to change who we are, it's to understand how we are and use it with intention. And that brings me to something really, really important, my friend, because I want you to understand this very clearly. Whether you're introverted, extroverted, or somewhere in between, there is nothing wrong with your personality. Because the reality is, we live in a world that often glorifies the loudest voices, right? The one who speak up first, who seem endlessly confident, who own every room they walk into, right? But here's the truth. Success doesn't belong to a specific personality type. No, it belongs to the person who understands their energy and uses it wisely. We all can thrive regardless of what our personality is. We all have our unique strength. For example, introverts, they listen deeply. They notice details. They are so creative, focused, and they bring calm to chaos. Extroverts bring motion. They energize, they connect, they communicate easily. And ambiverts, they dance between both worlds. They listen when needed and speak when it matters. Or whatever they feel in the moment, like me. And that's okay. Each one has its own superpower. Each one brings something the world needs. So listen, my friend, if you have ever thought, I wish I was more outgoing, or maybe I'm too quiet or too loud, please hear me. There is nothing wrong with you. Your personality isn't a flaw to fix. No, it's a design to understand. It's your personal energy map. Once you learn how it works, you can navigate life with more peace, more confidence, and a lot less pressure to perform. And speaking of personality and personalities that blend depth and expression beautifully, there is someone who models this balance in such an inspiring way. You probably know him, Jay Shetty. He is a former monk, best-selling author, speaker, coach, and podcast host who inspired millions around the world with his message about purpose and mindset. What's interesting is that Jay has often said he's naturally more introverted. He doesn't thrive in big crowds or small talk, but when he's on stage or behind a microphone, he's fully alive. That's because he's learned how to use his energy, not to fight it. Jay explains that while he leans introverted, he's also adaptable, what we call an ambivert, right? Because he loves deep connection, but he also values and needs solitude and stillness to recharge. It's a perfect example of how confidence doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being aligned. And that's exactly what this conversation is about, my friend. Understanding your own energy so you can thrive without pretending to be someone you're not. And what's really fascinating is that there's actually science behind all this. The reason some of us feel charged by people while others need quiet to refuel. Neuroscience shows that much of what we call introversion or extroversion is linked to how our nervous system responds to stimulation. Introverts have a more sensitive dopamine system. You know, that feel-good chemical that lights up when we experience excitement, activity, or reward. Because their brains, the introvert brain, react faster, they can reach overstimulation sooner, which is why crowds or constant interaction can feel draining. Extroverts, on the other hand, have a lower sensitivity to dopamine. They need more external activity, conversations, collaboration, movement to reach that same level of energy and motivation. And most people, we fall somewhere in the middle, ambiverts, whose brains can adapt to both ends of the spectrum depending on the situation. That's why you might love connecting with people one day and crave being alone the next day. So your preferences are not flaws or fixed boxes. No, they're simply how your nervous system finds balance. So once you understand that, you stop fighting it. You stop labeling yourself as too much or not enough. You start managing your energy instead of judging it. You see, understanding your personality isn't about staying comfortable also, my friend. It's about staying conscious. If you are introverted, that doesn't mean avoiding every group or a stage. No, it just means you recharge differently afterward. If you are extroverted, it doesn't mean you always have to be on. No, it's okay to pause and find stillness. And if you're somewhere in between, that flexibility is your gift. The key is not to use your personality as a limit, guys, but as a guide to honor who you are without hiding behind it. Because growth doesn't mean becoming someone else. No, it means letting more of you come forward. And when you start to look at the world through that lens, through self-awareness instead of comparison, you see it everywhere. People thriving in completely different ways simply by embracing their own rhythm. Some lead quietly, others shine with vibrant energy, and both can be equally powerful. We already talked about Jay Shetty, but let me share a few more real-life examples that show exactly that. Take Lionel Messi as another example. The Argentine global legend, one of the greatest soccer players of all time. He is known for being humble, quiet, and more introverted on and off the field. He doesn't lead with loud words. No, he leads with presence, with performance. When he steps onto the field, his focus, skills, mental strength, and determination do all the talking. He reminds us that you don't need to be the loudest in the room to leave the biggest impact. Then there is Shakira, the Colombian artist known all over the world for her iconic dance moves, voice, her rhythm, and her contagious energy. She expresses herself fully, reminded us that joy and energy can be just as powerful as silence and focus. Two people, two completely different ways of being, same impact. And maybe that's the point, my friend. It's not about which side of the scale you fall on. It's about how well you understand and use the energy you have been given. Because when you stop trying to copy someone else's energy and start honoring your own, you don't just succeed, you thrive. You see it, right? There is no single personality that guarantees success. It's all about self-awareness. And once you understand that, the next question becomes, how do you live it? How do you take this awareness and use it in your everyday life? Right? So let's talk about that, because this is where mindset meets action. It all starts with the way you speak to yourself, because the words you use shape the way you show up. So instead of saying I'm too quiet, try saying I'm thoughtful and intentional. And instead of I talk too much, try I bring energy and enthusiasm. Those small shifts are how compassion replaces criticism. And that's where changes begins. From there, it's all about awareness in motion, my friend. Notice what gives you energy and what drains you. People, places, conversations. And also protect your peace and honor your recharge time. That's not selfish, it's smart. Adjust when you need to. Sometimes you need connections, other times you need quiet time. It's okay. And most importantly, stop judging your rhythm. Just listen to it. Because the more you understand how your energy works, the more aligned and authentic your life feels. That's how you thrive. Not by changing who you are, but by working with who you are. All right, my dear friend, let's take a moment to breathe and bring all this together. Today, we explored the truth behind personality, not as a label or a box, but as a language your energy speaks. We talk about introverts, extroverts, and everyone beautifully in between. We learn that most of us move in that middle space, flexible, responsive, flowing between quiet and connection depending on the moment, the need, the season of life we are in. You discover that your personality isn't something to fix, it's something to understand and honor. And that self-awareness and growth are not opposites, they support each other. And maybe for the first time, you see that the way you move through the world, how you speak, connect, recharge, feel, and show up was never wrong. It was simply yours. Maybe the quiet moments you once questioned are actually where your clarity lives. And those bursts of expression you try to soften, they are where your aliveness shines through. You were never meant to trade who you are for who you think you should be. You were meant to understand yourself deeply enough to live in alignment, with peace, with confidence, with joy. So this week, my friend, hold yourself with grace. Speak to yourself like someone you love. And remember, you don't need to become louder, quieter, or different to be worthy. You don't need to earn belonging by changing your nature. You just need to be you, fully, consciously, unapologetically. Because when you embrace your natural energy instead of apologizing for it, You stop shrinking. You stop pretending. And then you start living. And listen, guys, if this episode made you breathe a little easier about who you are, share it with someone you love. Let's help more hearts feel seen, understood, and free to be themselves. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your messages, for every moment you take to tell me how these conversations are helping you grow. You inspire me every single day. And I'm walking this path with you. And I appreciate you so much, my friend. Until next week, stay grounded, stay curious, and as always, own your power. I love you deeply. Have a beautiful week, my friend.